At the same time, I'm going to completely contradict this conversation by giving you the other half of my brain, which says that women are made to nurture.
And welcome to the Alchemized Podcast with me, your host, Dr. Neil Bultundani. On this podcast, I get to interview thought leaders, artists, healers, people of all kinds of backgrounds. We're exploring what it is to go from compromised to alchemized, what it is to go from that suffering and struggle to integration and healing or connectedness. And I'm really focusing on consciousness. So even though we might be exploring this with people of all kinds of backgrounds, we're really getting at this awareness of who are we and what do we have and how can we offer it. And Dr. Tina is great at expressing that. So Dr. Tina Rokadia, she is the guest. I have been excited to talk with her on the podcast for a while, and we're going to explore these topics: consciousness, the masculine, feminine polarity, roles and traditions, and we'll get into that. You might be hearing some music, as you are. That is "Smokeless Fire" from Michael Gunger. Really love his music, and I hope you enjoy it as well. He was on the podcast recently, and we'll have him back on again. So, Dr. Tina Rokadia, let me give you a glimpse of who she is, and then I'll tell you how we met. So, she is known as Airway Dentist Dubai on Instagram, and she's an educator. She's really poised as that. A lot of people tune in and are following her work. They want to know the answers that she has for this field, but I think there's also this sense of she carries herself as it's a position of desire to share on a broader scale, and she's doing that. So to tell you though who she is, she's an American trained prosthodontist because she is practicing in Dubai. We'll get into her background. 18 years of experience in restorative and cosmetic dentistry. She earned a master's degree in prosthodontics from Boston University, which is a dental college in Mumbai, 2006. She's been practicing in Dubai since 2008, originally from Mumbai, and she's a passionate advocate of holistic dental care. And she became one of the first dentists of the United Arab Emirates to explore the link between compromised airways and overall health in 2020. And she is board certified by the Academy of Dental Sleep Medicine. She has so many different, we'll say, trainings, postgraduate, postdoctoral, after a prosthodontist. And so we could just name a bunch of things. She's Breathing Institute ambassador by Dr. Sarish Zaghi in Los Angeles. She's involved in the diagnosis and the treatment of tongue ties and other tethered oral issues following their functional frenuloplasty protocol in combination with myofunctional therapy. But she's such an advocate of the belief of the interdisciplinary model and the need and the village model within airway-centered care. So obviously collaborates with many dentists, ENTs, craniosacral therapists, orthodontists, osteopaths, myofunctional therapists, boutique breathing experts, and let's say, what else can I read from? She's just passionate. She is about talking with people and educating, as you see from her Instagram posts if you followed it. So let me explain. Also, with utilizing many kinds of other adjunctive therapies, we can name those, but she'll get into more of what that is. So, but what is prosthodontist? What is a prosthodontist? It's a dental specialist focusing on the diagnosis, restoration, and replacement of missing teeth. So it is a specialty. and they help with complex cases involving like cosmetics, jaw disorders, and full mouth reconstruction. But I love this quote. I'm just reading because I wanted to explain to you what is a prosthodontist. They are the architects of the smile, and so I love that because she might have come at it through that angle, but then she integrated this advanced study, airway-centered care, and those are a beautiful marriage. So, without further ado, um, we'll let Tina talk to us and share with us. And I enjoy the conversation that I had with her on delving deep into like who is she, what is her personal legend, and we really get into that. So those of you who want a more nitty gritty, airway centered focused podcast where we get into the need for this unfolding to happen and all the complexities of such, you're in store, and you get ready for not that because I intentionally don't go there. But she has some other great and phenomenal podcasts where she explores that, as well as her Instagram. So check all those out. Check it out in the show notes or on her links. That's great. But we're exploring something in a different fashion. So I hope you enjoy. And let's just share with us what you think. Thanks for listening.
I'm here with Tina Rokadia, Dr. Tina Rokadia, which I met you first as Airway Dentist Dubai, right? That is the amazing Instagram account that you have. But what I really, loved pretty quickly into exploring like what you talk about is, um, I was going to tell you, you're like a journalist, you're like a chronicler, you're like uh, an expert of your craft and the local representative. But you can tell right away that, first of all, you make amazing social media content and you have a great thing going on with that. But you can tell your voice is meant to reach many. You just look at it and you can feel like, ooh, she's got something on her where that's meant to carry far. So I'm a fan of yours, and then also it's been really fun to just chat. How many voice memos? How many messages back and forth have we had? And then a little bit where we were video calling during a presentation. You even recorded content that I shared that you put on your channel. I just feel like we've had a fun collaboration, and now we're sitting down for a good conversation.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me here, Neil. It means a lot. And yes, you're right. We've kind of had these parallel journeys where we keep interacting with each other over the last few years. I feel like we met first time in San Francisco, but at the WDSS, but I feel like I knew
Yeah,
you
yeah.
before that.
Yes.
I've been always talking about your work here to the chiropractors and the osteopaths, saying,
Hmm.
if you, I think you should upskill with like, listening to Neil. And I heard many of your podcasts on my treadmill mornings. So I do feel like, I know you and I kind of get what part of healthcare we have the same approach from. And I will comment a little bit on that brand of the
Hmm.
Instagram.
Yeah.
And I remember very well, the day I had to kind of pick the name and pick a separate Instagram handle rather than my going with the choice of having my own personal name on it. And yes, okay, it could be catchy or whatever, but I'm not somebody who likes to make a noise without actually having substance underneath. So getting onto that Instagram was really hard because more than 3 years on, I curate every word that gets out there. Like
Hmm.
it's, every reel, every post, even if it's like not all designed by me on Canva, it's picked through my education, my conversations, my dreams. Things, thoughts that I wake up with in the morning are kind of put out there. And so while it may just be an Instagram, it truly is my voice. And that Airway Dentist Dubai tag has kind of become a personal brand where sometimes
Hmm.
it's funny. I will approach a big name at a conference and be like, hey, I'm from Dubai. And they're like, oh, yeah, you are? You should meet Airway Dentist Dubai there. Like, well, that is me.
That's you. Oh, it's so cool because your identity or yeah, that personal brand that precedes you, it is you. And yeah. Oh, that's so fun. Well, yeah, I loved meeting you, and it was the World Dental Facial Sleep Society Congress in San Francisco, November. It was like a couple of years ago, and so
Very
so
nice.
many.
Yeah.
Yes, it was like so beautiful to meet some people there that I have continued collaboration with. You're one of them, and we got a chance for me to do some body work for you, which was really
That's
fun.
right.
Yeah. So yeah,
Ex-
you were like you were just like in. You were like, "Yes, I let's do it." And you wanted to experience it, and I was like, "Yeah, you." So it was fun to be able to do that, especially because we could have so much rapport without having had that. But as I
Exactly.
love to share the work, the floor of the mouth work, and all those things, it was really fun to be able to have that time and kind of from there, yeah, continue the
No, it
dialogue.
was very, very kind of you. I remember very well how exhausted we all were after our visit to Stanford and a whole
Oh
day
yeah.
of lectures. But, I find that these interactions open journeys for yourself as well. So I was in a lot of different pain at that point in different parts of my body.
Yeah.
And you were kind to kind of heal me, but also start that healing journey around the different areas that may be going on, which it's never like you open that chapter and it just gets completed, but it's
Yeah.
constantly a work in evolution, and I'm in a better place right now, so or at least on the
Yeah.
pain. So
Which I'm
that's
glad. I know we
good.
kept in touch, and it was great to hear you were finding, yeah, finding good solutions, your own pursuits. And we could camp out there, but we could also just I remember moments of like our peers and collaborators and those who were presenting. We could just talk about that for hours on like all the
True.
amazing people that were there in this little pocket of San Francisco, Stanford, such an epicenter of like sleep apnea and all that. However, we should we'll do that another time maybe because that'd be fun to get more into that. But I'm really excited to first of all do a little bit of a recap on just some of the things that you've been up to recently that I think really stand out to me when I'm catching up on your feed and I'm saying, "What is Tina up to right now?" And oh, so many things I could mention. I have links to in the show notes of the a few podcasts that I've listened to of you where you really talk a lot about the airway dentistry that you've really pursued the origin story. So I know I want to send people to those places. But what are the last few things you've done? You've spoken all over, so many speaking engagements, so many educational platforms in this past, I know, while, but especially the last few years or so. So what are some of the things that you've done in the last, that stand out that most excited you, but also that you knew were part of that, the contributions you have to the field and the world?
Right. It's interesting when you mention it like that. I'm kind of, putting pieces together. And one of the things that I have done over the last couple of years is stepped away from completely engaging only with the US.
Hmm.
I started seeing early on in the practice that I mean, Dubai is so multicultural.
Yeah.
It's like nowhere else. It's truly like nowhere else because people don't integrate into, like, yes, people can be from all walks of life in the US, but eventually everybody becomes American or behaves mostly American. Here,
Mhm.
people really retain their strong cultural identity. And to be able to practice with that required me to understand more about how healthcare is practiced in these countries. So I've actually interacted a lot more in Europe, in the UK, and then
Mhm.
had a couple of conferences in India. I have traveled to
Mhm.
Spain. So
Wow.
I have picked up bits and pieces from practitioners across different cultures. And each person brings each culture brings a very different way of practice. So it turns out that Mediterranean countries and Europe in general is extremely holistic
Mhm.
and is almost I mean, for me, I grew up with like such an American hangover, right? Like it's all things cool, honestly,
Mhm.
like especially with education in medicine, it's the gold standard on everything. But that's not how Europe views the US. And their general lifestyles on people, on how they raise their children, or how quick they are to intervene is very, very different. So in the US, we generally see this trend around saying, if you intervene fast, if your provider intervenes fast, that's great. In other parts of the world, that's a negative. So I felt like I see that you need the intervention. I have studied so much to understand that you need the intervention, but you are not ready yet.
Hmm.
And I need to kind of meet you where you are and show you the light in a language that you speak, in terms of it being more holistic, it being more base than, intervention. And then you will get to the intervention. So I've done courses from people in Argentina, the UK, Spain, and then I've been interacting more also with the airway sleep dental community in India, where it's also been rather interesting to find almost validation.
Hmm.
That's been a key there too, to say, you know what, I have grown in so many ways. And it's sometimes when you're hanging out with your people, you can see that a bit more visibly around it. So I've done lesser podcasts, more conference talks,
Oh yeah,
uh,
yeah.
lots of education in mostly in the fields of orthodontics and then sleep apnea, but interacting with ENTs. So, from sleep surgeries and sleep surgeon points of view. And I think marrying all these aspects is not easy for a practitioner to put into practice. And yet it's so crucial to be
Yeah.
able to be open and not stuck in whatever you learned.
Well, this was just, the really, really, really want to have this opportunity for some who maybe not doesn't they don't know Dubai very well, or they maybe have some ideas about it that
Mhm.
could be true, could be in, obviously it's a vast territory that has so much to it. And what better person to ask about this than you? And I don't think I've had anybody on the podcast who's from Dubai yet. So I
Love
was on a
talking about
Zoom.
Dubai.
I'm going to ask you a question, and I would love to hear. I was on a Zoom with uh, some businesses and people from Dubai. It was like it was months ago, and um, but that's that conversation. And then I really traveled to Morocco and North Africa and some of the places that you mentioned, and but I've yet to go to Dubai. I nearly had a trip or two planned, and and my wife Dawn has really been excited to go. So at some point we're gonna go,
Oh
and then we're
gosh,
gonna
yes,
come
we're
and
going
we're
to
gonna
get you
visit you.
here. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're going
So,
to get lots of
but
you.
would you open up our eyes to like I want to talk about the beauty and the sparkling jewel of Dubai as it is in your eyes. And I also would just don't want to gloss over how when we were originally going to do this podcast, there was a lot that happened.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. It's been an
so,
unfortunate couple of months in our
yes.
region and the city for reasons that, the city wasn't involved in. But moving past that, so I've been in Dubai for 20 years,
Hmm.
and this is home. I really don't identify with, the city that I grew up in, because this has been my own whole adult life. But the best part and the worst part about Dubai combined is it's so constantly evolving,
Hmm.
so fast that you can't keep up. So, what I would talk about Dubai 10 years ago is it's completely different right now. So I'm still going to be a little nostalgic and tell you about the Dubai that, is not maybe these last 5 years, but, the
Okay.
years before that. Um, Everything you hear, yes, it is a lot about appearances. And, I am not so much about appearances. So um, everything you hear in terms of the glitz and the glam is not so real on a daily basis.
Hmm.
But everything you hear about our leadership is just incredible. So I come from the world's largest democracy, and a lot gets said about autocracies. And I've always said that a well managed autocracy works better than any democracy. So the leaders have had very, very clear vision on where they want to take the city to and how they want it to be open, right? So the region as such in the Middle East is not very open. It's not
Hmm.
just about religious values. It is just about, like it's taken years for things to move in this region. It's all autocratic, so it depends on, who your leader is. Whereas this is not even the whole UAE. This is specifically Dubai.
Hmm. Right.
They think on their feet, and they are not afraid to take decisions that seem risky from the outside, but they're constantly trying things. So I always say that Dubai's government works like a business. It kind of thinks like, how do I make my business of this city the most open and the most advanced and the most quickly, like growing my business. So it's like a government which is entrepreneurial. They literally go into their systems and say, what's not working? What's not working? Let's fix this today. Let's fix that tomorrow. And they're very rapid with it. Society is extremely modern, but it is more accepting and more tolerant. They use the word tolerant, but actually, I think it's more about acceptance of everything.
Yeah.
Like we have no place for judgment here because
Mhm.
you know every day you meet people coming from completely different walks of life. So my kids' friends at school, to whom we'll meet at the beach, to my neighbor who'll come over for dinner. We come from different walks of life that is allowed to stay like that. The way you dress, the way you eat. Is your house smelly with Indian food? Or, do you scream out across the pool to somebody else, which would be considered, wrong in another culture or whatever?
Mhm.
It all goes. It all goes and it starts to be accepted and integrated in. And then the backdrop of this is a very, very modern, very comfortable, and very safe society. So
Mhm.
it's been a very entertaining part of my life to see this constant evolution. Over the last couple of years, the city was very busy, and I'm somebody who could make a village busy in my head. So that balance has been a bit tricky to say, to have a slow mind and have a peaceful mind in this city is
Mhm.
not easy.
Mhm.
And I come from Mumbai, which has a very, high
Okay.
pace
Yeah.
of life.
Yeah.
And I would still say that in the last few years, the pace of life in Dubai has exceeded that of most cities, or is, at a palpable pace like London, New York. It's there's so much going on at all times, and we're always kind of adapting. There's no, this is how my life in Dubai is. It's this. But on its plus front,
Mhm.
especially with my work, which has been literally the focus of everything in my life for the last few
Mhm.
years, more than my children or anything of that sort, it has given me immense opportunity. So every time I hear, and I do travel the world because of the very
Mhm.
convenient airline, something that also I owe to Dubai. That as I travel the world and, I hear the struggles that people have with uptake of information by their patients, to say, we're telling patients this, but people don't really, providers from places, etc., like we whom you want to collaborate with, it's not been my experience in Dubai. For example, it turns out that most ENTs from the South American countries, or Spain, etc., Italy, are very open to the idea of working with dentists and having collaborations. So there was no struggle. Body workers are abundant. There are multiple craniosacral therapists, etc.
Mhm.
They're because they come from Portugal or they come from Australia, or and then there was like the speech therapist. So it turns out that oral motor therapy and parts of myofunctional therapy are extremely common in Brazil or in Spain or Italy. They're taught this during their graduate programs. So I would have like a freshly graduated speech therapist who already does myofunctional therapy. Um, so you just had to kind of find your crowd who was all looking. It almost felt like we were all just looking for each other, rather than fighting each other on moving forward. Yes, it's not a big group. It is still small, but also my patients were just looking for a cure to be healthier. So, and I owe that to Dubai. I do think that the people it attracts are different than what other cities attract.
Yeah, and it's love that. Thank you for giving us that like sliver of the life. I really like those. It helps too comparing it. I mean, some people know that there are very few cities in the world that would carry that kind of energy and connectivity of Dubai. It's like um, a place that attracts people, like you're saying, and I think that's true about, cities that might not be as well known, where there's something about this city, and you'll find, as a traveler as well, you'll find, people flock to this one area because like Mount Shasta up here in there in Northern California, where I moved from. Like not a lot of people know the areas, but some people, Mount Fuji is the sister mountain over in Japan. So
Mhm.
people come from Mount Fuji to see Mount Shasta because it's a sister mountain, energetic vortex. And it's pretty wild to see people come from all over the world to this little town in Northern California called Redding. It's where I met my wife, so it's special for me. We moved down here to Santa Barbara a year ago, and even though Santa Barbara, I was just, Tina, Santa Barbara is small, very small, but it's now one of the most like regarded places to live in because it's nice. It's next to Montecito. We have a lot of people who are living in the area, especially from LA, who have been part of that
Mhm.
scene in Hollywood. Then they want a place in Santa Barbara, Montecito, or Carpinteria where they can just go sprawl out and live that. So I go to LA once a week to do sessions. Work out of a lactation consultant's office, and the pulse of the city is like, wow, it is. There are the tough things, but there is so much beauty and innovation. So, and I think that's just to say I can tap into some of that. It's the first I've lived an hour south of Chicago as well. That's where I was born and
Okay.
raised. So Chicago's got some really amazing cosmopolitan dynamics. But yeah, Dubai is a place that's got this exotic appeal of like I'm sure when we go, it's gonna be fun to explore. So tell me also, okay, so I need to know your dedication to your work is pretty extraordinary and how much you've invested into it, time, energy. I've heard you share on like a couple podcasts, like, or even a recent post that you made on Mother's Day. I listened to that and I loved it. It was really warming, heartwarming to hear you talk to the mothers. Um, some moms, their full role is to just grow these children and then others have the work that they do, and then I just want to say, like, it's an admirable, what you're doing, and also you can feel like the sensitivity and tenderness, and then you can also feel like you had mentioned in that post, like your kids could get home at 7:30 p.m. on a Sunday because you've been working, and your kids are like, "Oh, what about dinner?" And I'm not saying this about your kids; they seem amazing. I know you were just doing this
The
little
kids.
post.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're
The
kids,
kids. Yes. Yeah.
but your dedication is so powerful, and I know that that's because this it could be because of some deep drives that you've had, but I want to know more about that. What what's really what can you look at as motivations, or like do you have people that you emulated early in life, whether in family or in society or culture, ones you learned about that gave you that spark of like really pursuing what you're doing? Let's just
So
say
yeah,
not the dentistry part, but pursuing
I
your passion.
understand.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm trying to like kind of think about how do I divide these two things to tell you a little bit about my purpose, and then
Yeah,
kind of keep the parenting and the being the mother outfit, but I may not be able to because I think these two
that's okay.
things are so blended into my life.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I grew up in a household that was fairly simple, conservative, that said, hey, work, but don't work so much that you
Mhm,
neglect everything else, like, very
mhm,
middle path on different aspects. And yes, it definitely was in a generation where if the mom didn't need to provide to the household, then she wouldn't work. Her
right.
primary role would be at home. If she needed to, yes, India was modern and, there were lots of working moms around. There wasn't like a barrier to work, but it was like a choice more towards this. And I was raised to say, no, be independent and have work, but be primary parent, balance it out,
Mhm,
your marriage, your spouse, your health. Don't let things get out of whack. And I lived my first maybe 12 years of marriage in that fashion, had two kids, all of that. But there was this inner bubbling that I couldn't explain. And it sounds very crazy when someone says that I think I'm made for bigger things than this.
mhm,
Um, and Dubai wasn't easy to be. a dentist in. It wasn't easy to be a working mother dentist. These are some of the negatives of the city where we don't have this concept of a 3-day work day that ends at 5 p.m. Or even, like I see people in the US who work, I don't know, varied hours, right? Dentistry is so flexible, appointment only. So say if you're not driven at some point, or your kids are young, you can kind of choose those aspects. I didn't have those choices. I had to choose between either being at work too much for my balance or not having enough work. And I kept that not enough work because, the primary roles were as parent, but it was bubbling. It was like
Hmm.
something's not sitting right. I also was not as aligned with my previous masters in prosthodontics. What the city is very aesthetic driven, and prosthodontics had great input there, but that was not feeling like my calling. So there was scarcity in work, and I was not attracting the right vibe because that's not who I am. And I think it all started to come together just when I started a lot of inner work. So I was struggling with finding my identity outside of being this mother. Yes, I was a dentist. Yes, it was cool and all that. And I was, good at what I did. But the who I was not having placed or time to shine. So I started first with this something called human design.
Hmm.
It's like it's a gentle science. It kind of says, how to act aligned with your purpose, not to
Yeah.
find your purpose, but just how to make your
Hmm.
decisions, how to feel right about your decisions. And I stopped fighting this urge to say that it needs to be all or none, right? Like either I need to be like full time work or I need to be full time parent. I'm going to have to accept working within the realm of what I have. Um, I found out that I have a lot of abandonment anxiety that I actually project onto my children. Now, I've had no abandonment in my childhood. My parent was probably a bit too much on me. But yet I kept feeling that if I leave the kids to study, to travel, to work for long periods of time, my children will feel abandoned. And I have learned now that I'm not the only mother who feels like that.
Yeah.
It's not about how the kids feel, but it is how we've been told that mothers should be constantly sacrificing, etc. So another big monumental moment in my journey came when I read this book, Untamed. It's a book that's very known in the women circles around
Yeah.
it, but I'm not wild inside. I'm not wild. I'm fine. But I was overtamed by society, by
Yeah.
conditioning.
Yeah.
And there is this whole huge element of mothers have to sacrifice. It
Mm.
it almost just starts at the time that you give birth. Like that's it, part of you ends and moves on. So I've had to pursue a fair amount of um smaller tweaks in mindset, which I was very, very fortunate that they're very supported by my spouse around it.
Mhm.
And I will tell you, not outside of my spouse. That support didn't directly come immediately from close families, or, it wasn't like
Mhm.
everybody was like, yeah, Tina, you go do you. No, there was a fair
Mhm.
amount of resistance. He's been the cheerleader that said, I see you, and I see that, when you say you're made for something different, I see that. I'm here to like hold the fort while you experiment. He wasn't probably there when the kids were young, but now that, mine are now 14 and 11. So this was at a time about 6 years ago when they were still young, but not all that young. And that's when I started saying, I'm going to leave this voice behind of what is this going to bring me? I'm going to do this education. Will it be accepted in Dubai? Will it this? Will it? I don't know. I'm just going to rely on start listening to what I want for health, what I want, what my gut tells me. So
Yeah.
start tuning a little bit into my intuition without worrying about this very um, commercial and business focused and growth focused city around me.
Yeah. Can
So,
I say something? I want you to not lose your train of thought because I'm really listening here. But what you shared is so important because as a husband of someone she's just about to graduate with her PhD in embodied validation, 3 master's degrees, and she's been called to great things. But we talk a lot about this, is that it frustrates me that we need to talk about you having to push past these things societally. Like, I can't stand that. I saw it in my childhood growing up, and I saw where why are we stuck in these old ways as a society where we put pressure on women to conform to whatever it is we think. And I am not one who aligns with that. I very quickly, as a little boy, was like, no way. That I'm going to say the words because it'll make sense without me sharing too much of my story, because I don't want to take away from your precious time. But I could not stand the negative version of patriarchy. I could not stand the misogyny that I witness in the world and society. That, like you said, you grew up in, like, I it's
In
just been
Mumbai,
put
yeah.
on from generations,
Yeah.
and especially in some places like India and the Middle East. And so I just wanna say, like, I'm so frustrated that you had to have that experience, but I'm also so thankful that you are really, really knew who you were and you dug in.
Do you know what, Neil? I'll tell you a little bit around what you just said. Okay. So I, while I'm saying that, I have transcended some of these, say social norms, etc.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm going to like completely contradict this conversation by giving you the other half of my brain, which
Yeah.
says that women are made to nurture.
Yeah.
So I am, especially my work in Airway has taken me back to more holistic roots. I have found so
Mhm.
much respect actually for my mother through this journey, who in my
Mm.
teenage years I actually looked upon as too strict, too conservative, too traditional. And now I've kind of like looked at it and said, we cannot take away provider and nurturer from our
Mhm.
genetic makeup.
Right.
And while I have gone on this crazy mission to do what my purpose called out to me, which I'll share with you a little bit about my
Yeah.
purpose soon. But the journey is harder because I also do want to nurture alongside that.
Yeah.
And what happens with that is when a man pursues his purpose, he is usually providence comes as a result of purpose. Unless you want to go sit on a mountain somewhere and not provide, I understand
Right.
that. But
Right.
let's say that when you're in commercial cities, you're providing as a result of your purpose, and there is no guilt,
Mhm.
whereas most women have been infused with this guilt around it. So
Yeah.
while everybody around can support, I know that my inner being believes that I'm also here to nurture.
Yeah.
And so as that child complains at 7:30 p.m. that I have left nothing in my day for them, if that same sentence was said to most men, they would be like, "Ha, I'll make up for it tomorrow. Big deal." Right? I carry that burden on. But I
Mhm.
think that these are things that we have to just learn how to build our lives based on the age group of our children. So I speak very often to young mothers in my field in the UK, here, wherever I find them. And I'm like, please, please don't look at my journey on Instagram and feel like, oh, she's doing so much, I'm feeling left out. Your role right now is to breastfeed that 1 year old. Your time will come. Like, just like, have that faith that your time will come and your space will shine. And we're not like, we can't all be at the same top of the same mountain at all times. And I wish I was kinder to myself when it wasn't my time to shine. But so I kind of like live this balance of saying, no, traditionally we should tell women that in early younger years their roles are more to nurture than to find purpose or to provide, because let's say that everybody's on a spectrum, right? Nobody is like black or white, but most men and women on a spectrum, and this is of course so challenging in this conversation today with genders, but I get
Right.
away with it in Dubai. We're pretty binary in gender.
Yeah.
And, but I don't mean male or female. I mean
Sure.
feminine or masculine.
Yeah.
And it just turns out that wherever you are on that spectrum, if you're more feminine on that spectrum, your role is to nurture. So if
Mhm.
you're married to a man who is very feminine, then that's fine. Then I hope that, that other person, the woman, is more masculine in that, because otherwise, one of these aspects of life is missing for the children. But I'm a big believer in this provider, gatherer, male, masculine, mindset, along with
Yes.
the more nurturer female mindset. At least that's true sort of in my household and my journey around it. So anyways, I just wanted to share that, it's great that you're supporting your spouse through it. And I've been very fortunate to have that in my spouse as well. And yet the challenge still stays, because in busy
Yeah.
cities it is hard to parent and be present for busy practices, have balance, and um, it's a journey that
It's
I opened with my work.
and I know you did so well at kind of it's so hard because I know you're talking about what has worked for you, and it's not necessarily this like program or this like blueprint for everybody. But what I think is really powerful is to say that whatever a person's path, and if that person, that woman, the mom's choosing to like do this or that or the other, I just really like feel like just that we need to come to a place to where we can all pursue, especially women. So I'm going to say that's I'm saying we can all. No, Neil, that's like men like me. Like I said what I wanted. I could do it. I pursued it. I was celebrated. So from an early age, I hated that. Actually, I'm going to say a very strong word. I saw my sister not given that because the female role was different. So I was immediately congratulated, said, "You're going to do great things." And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." But she too. And the women I know, they need more. Like, I don't want that. I want that. I know I'm going to do fine. That's fine. But
Yeah.
I have that affirmation. So I feel
Yeah.
like we could talk about overcorrection where like that but there's not an overcorrection. There's been an undervaluing of the feminine voice, and let's just talk about feminine polarity because I love how you touched on that. Whether man or woman, all those things, the feminine polarity is so important because we have definitely suppressed that. Like you said, the nurture role, I was given the gift of being like, you know, coached and guided by my mom and my older sister, I was tuned into like the feminine elements more. And then later I've had to learn healthier masculinity to balance out my polarity. So I think it's important to just say that the polarities are not the genders. Yeah, at the same
Yeah.
time, we live in a world where this is good to say but what does this mean? And so I'll say a couple more things and then I'm gonna pass the mic back to you because I need to hear more from you. But I think it's important to say like there is a really big need to like some of my work is about the mouth, but it's really about the unshackling of the voice and the unshackling of agency. And so for that to happen, the voice and intuition and energy and empathic fields, that's the feminine polarity that needs to
Mm.
be allowed to flourish. We've had enough of the masculine, but we need a balancing out because we need both of them to coexist, where we need the form and function and structure of the masculine energy and the provider, the leader, but we also need the feminine intuition, nurture that actually makes sure that plants exist, right? If we didn't have nurture, plants wouldn't get their water and they wouldn't grow. So men wouldn't exist if it wasn't for
Yeah.
a woman birthing them. So let's just make sure you all know, like, we need to look at that as a real simple thing. It's like out of a mother grows a fertile, soil and creature and being that becomes a man that we need to make sure we are like really properly giving the feminine voice the time to shine because our world would be so much better, our planet would be so
Yes.
much healthier, our governments would be so much sounder if only the feminine voice was allowed to lead us more. So we can't change all of that in one fell swoop, but I know through your work, you're inspiring a lot of people in that. So I'm really thankful for that. And
Yeah.
I know I interrupted you about your
No,
journey, but
and
please,
I'll add to it, Neil, around that feminine voice. Okay, so
yes,
obviously, like anybody who's listening to our podcast today is probably sitting in a very modernized society, wondering, there are women on top everywhere. Like, what are you talking about? From
Yeah.
CEOs to like
Hmm.
speakers at conferences or whatever. What I started to notice was that these women had to take on masculine qualities to be able to succeed, right?
Yes.
So again, we to speak about the femininity and the masculinity more than the female or the male. And
Mhm.
they had to put their nurture sides down to be stronger, more,
Mm.
the generally climb that corporate ladder, you have to be this really like fierce person. And what if that's not how you want to lead? So
Mhm.
I'll bring that down into a very micro space of my little dental office, which I am just an associate at. And, I'm not sure how they would all react if they were listening, but, I can be honest with what I share. I joined there 9 years ago after having sold my own business and given birth. My second one was like 2.5. I was quite burnt out and I wanted to take it a bit easy. Um, it turned out that for about 5 to 6 years, actually, even till date, I'm the only female practicing dentist who has children. There are mostly everybody else. So the male energy in the practice is very, very strong.
Mhm.
Whoever else female exists in different administrative or DA roles, or now even a dentist, does not have children. And I felt like I was having to constantly explain that these things were different for me because I have children, but I was being viewed as, ah, but she's busy with the kids. So
Mhm.
she's not going to add up to much because she's busy with the kids, right?
Right. Right.
And I'm so proud of the people that I work with. I say this with all due respect that they
Mhm.
are like top of their fields. Like I literally worship the ground that my bosses walk on, with how amazing they are. And even the other dentists are all lovely people and great at what they do also.
Yeah.
But their journey is not the same. Their journey is not the same. And I needed to be respected by every person in that space um, for my journey, for how I was leading with kindness, with nurturing, with, I wouldn't scream when something didn't go my way. That's just not my nature. I would, apologize first before you could apologize. And I had to realize that I will only get that respect when I see myself with that respect. So if I start to see that this is not a flaw, that I actually have children and I'm working and it's so hard, if I just own this and say that I will lead differently, but I will still lead and I will still grow, then everybody around, not just my office, will start to see that. And I think that's still a work in progress. I
Mhm.
think that like I love to talk about that New Zealand Prime Minister. I forget her name now, but she actually breastfed in cabinet during her term as prime minister, and she was one of the first few female prime ministers ever to have done that. But the truth is that after a term she quit.
Mhm.
She stepped back. So we've not gotten there where it is easy to lead with
Mhm.
feminine characteristics, and to this we burn these people out,
Mm.
so I plan to keep pursuing my journey in
Mhm.
that balance, in that, yes, I feel like this, but I'm not going to let my feeling just, weigh me down with the guilt. And at the same time, I'm not going to just keep working like the men in my world do, where, they've completely sometimes left the children behind or whatever. So that softness, along with keeping going despite the guilt, despite the baggage, despite that went out on Instagram, is going to be me, because I really feel like I lacked female role models who continuously spoke about, I'm doing this, but it is hard.
Mhm.
And it is, don't like, over try to do it. Like, it's okay. It's okay to say it's hard. Like that sort of a
Mhm.
thing there.
Yeah. Oh, so much, and you know, oh boy, there's so much to talk about there. But you reminded me a little bit earlier just of this thing. I was like last night we were getting the kids to sleep, and I was my littlest, he's 5, Zephyr. So he was he got a book I was going to read to him, and then but my wife was helping him, at the first steps, and then he said, "Dad," he wanted me, to come to. We have a triple bunk bed, all 3 kids, 9, 7, and 5. It's stacked. It's
Oh,
pretty wild at this point in life. Like, all right, so. and my wife is asking Zephyr, do you want to share how you were sad yesterday? I was out later. Was it yesterday? Yesterday is okay. Anyways, I try to get home. I want to be home by dinner so that I could either make dinner or at least be a part of that and then cut the fruit or whatever it is. But I've been, my work lately has been busier, so I've been getting home a little later. But I it was 2 nights ago or whatever. I was home after the kids got to sleep, which is always hard. And my wife was telling Zephyr, "Hey Zephyr, do you want to share how you were sad when you found out Dad wasn't coming home for work for bedtime and
Better.
helping draw out his in his sweet little face. He just kind of like looked the other way and he was so sad. And I was like, immediately my heart was like crushed. I knew I needed to be there. I needed to be doing the work that I was doing, but oh, I immediately missed being there and being present to be there with him for that little descent into sleep where it's those liminal moments. And for me, it's really important that I'm working towards being more there. And I'm excited because it's not my wife now having, well, she'll graduate. She's going to be launching and I am like, "I just want you to do that because we've had enough of me being the one who stays out." Like, I'm gonna, like, work, work, work towards getting all the things I can earlier in the day so I can be home for those moments because I yearn
Yeah.
for more of that connection. Because I just wanna say this one part. It's not good for them, it's good for us. Like, I need that as a dad for my
Mhm.
kids. I need to be feeling the beauty of some of those moments. And that's just my part in that. And that's going to be different because everybody has their different work roles and life roles, and it's hard. So we're just trying to do right. We're all trying to do the best. We are trying to do the best we can with what we've been given.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
as a visionary, as a leader, as a speaker, as a professional who is so savvy at what you do, as one who I think has this beckoning to be a spark for many. It's not easy because you also want to grow your kids with this nurture and love that they need. I see that in my wife too, and it's hard because she has so many things she's called to, and she has this huge, huge reach. I know, so I know that that's even there's more challenge there, but I know that there's an opportunity for more beauty because you're really exploring so much. So, okay, long way to say, uh, I want to know more about this question I love asking everybody, which is, what is your personal legend? I'll preface that a little bit by saying in the book The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho talks about this through the book, but it's a theme. But it's really this one moment where Santiago, the protagonist, he's a shepherd who is pursuing his dream. He is roaming through this city, and this mystical figure, a king on a bench, just asks him, or he says this thing to Santiago. He says, "The universe conspires in your favor when you are in pursuit of your personal legend." And that right there sums up what it is. So your legend could be your story, your dream, your purpose, your calling. Like, what are you put on this planet to do? And what does the universe conspire in your favor towards? And I'd love to know that.
Thank you. It's just so beautiful, right? The book and that moment in there. And
Yeah.
I will say that I don't think I knew it in much clarity till a couple of years ago.
Mm,
While I may have started living to my purpose when I probably started this airway journey, but I kind of have it more defined in my head and through my inner work presently to be able to actually speak about it. So it turned out that my purpose was to dive deep while staying wide and make a difference to the health of and the well being of people in my community, mostly using communication. To,
mhm.
to break that down, it's not about like, and that was so much in contrast with what I do with my hands,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm a dentist, it's always been about my skill in my hands.
Yeah.
And I have actually 90% of my day goes in talking
Mm,
now
mhm.
at work or even otherwise.
Yeah.
So and the universe has been conspiring to bring this together for me because I've had opportunity to communicate and to meet and grow. So to be able to actually stay wide, like you're not a dentist, right? We dentists only like talking to dentists. And similarly, probably in your field, but I'm always constantly drawn to learning about the human body. And it has, I do find that I'm glad I landed up in this profession because my purpose is aligned with health and well being. It is not
Mhm.
aligned with, I don't know, helping people uplift out of poverty, or, there could be so many different ways to be actually serving your community,
Mhm.
with ikigai and all of those concepts around it. So um, it's beautifully blended together my existing skill set, my existing profession,
Mhm.
but been able to break the chains of what, my profession runs me down to. Simple example, like in Dubai, it is not common for a dentist to charge for a consultation. When
Mhm.
I first started charging a relatively heavy fee for my consultation, I used to feel like, how is somebody going to pay when I haven't touched their teeth or
Mhm.
their mouth? Like if
Mhm.
I haven't done a cleaning, how is that? So there've been so many moments around there where I've had to say, I'm going to break the mold because this feels aligned to the purpose around it. And
Mhm.
one of the things that also stood out for me, which was again different than dentistry, was I don't want to yes, of course, I want to improve the health of the person sitting in front of me, but I actually want to create impact in community. Whether this
Mhm.
could be like my little group of friends, or it could be my child's school or nursery, or a larger, like 10,000 people on Instagram now, or,
Mhm.
speaking at a conference, whatever it is, I feel drawn to making that impact on a larger group of people. And I've had to start believing that I am a good communicator who can break down these large pieces of scientific information that I delve into, how I can connect the dots across different things, while staying rooted in scientific evidence, but looking at anecdotal life while being able to understand where this person in front of me is at right now, where do I meet them, to be able to communicate that to them. And I feel quite happy to say that this is what drives me to go to work every day. I come, even though I'm exhausted physically, I've like given everything at my, 10, 11-hour day at work, but I'm energized in my head. I'm
Mhm.
excited to share bits and pieces about my day. I'm excited to speak at a conference. I'm excited to continue meeting people. And monetary aside, I really do feel like I'm very aligned with my purpose.
Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Well, communicating, and it's really, um, I see, like I think I mentioned when I see your, for example, your Instagram channel, it's like it's energetic. Like right away you can see, oh, there is you're conveying a lot through, of course, well-crafted posts and the information, and it's layered and it's very in depth what you're providing as education, and it is like you're very gifted in that. And I think it is really wise or important for me to say, uh, you are communicating so much. Like I would just say, it makes sense that people would pay you really well, and that's really is wild to think. That was quite a stretch, and you had to push through there. But when people come and hear you speak, or they hear you speak, or you're distilling so much. You're putting into a very succinct, palatable, pardon the pun, bite-sized, again, you're giving people so much, it's taken you so much study, and you're also pulling together information from different fields so that people, if they come across you, they'll know so much, it'll save them heartache and pain and time and money. That's that. And I also think, I know you've spoken many places, many countries, and to different platforms, and you can multiply all that by 4, because at least like each person, they've probably been like, yeah, I saw an Airway Dentist Dubai that she said this, and then that person told this. I mean, how many tens of thousands of people at least have been their lives changed because of your words. So I think your impact is a ripple that is going very far, and it is touched a lot of people. So thank you for blazing with that purpose because we on this planet need that for sure.
Thank you. Yes, it's a daily decision, to on how we choose to live our purpose. So, like a small example on that is that, my social media person, or sometimes like, how everybody on social media gets these adverts from other social media people saying you're not doing it right. Let me show you how to do it. So,
Yes, all the
uh,
time.
yeah.
Oh
So
boy.
the number one thing that gets told to me on my social media is that I have no call to action.
Mm,
I have no, please come and see me to tell you more about this. I answer questions and I connect people for providers throughout the world. I will spend 15 minutes going through some random directory because they will not open it for their city if I give them
mhm.
the link, or I will
Yeah,
message somebody to find them the help that they can get in their city to the best that I
yeah,
can.
yeah.
Um, and I've tried to stay very, so again, I mean, it sounds like, oh, it's just your social media, but that Instagram's a very big part of my identity, and
Mhm.
how I live my life around it. And so I see that on a daily basis, I have a choice to put out a viral hack, like a viral thing that will
Yeah.
attract eyeballs, or
Mhm.
to make the research sound more attractive so that it'll be more shareable, or to say, come see me and I will tell you the rest of this story. And I choose to stay away from all of that on a daily
Mm,
basis. So
mhm.
that's, you said some very kind words, and thank you for that. And I do think that what I've truly lacked for many years and continue to still lack, and, it's a journey, is validation on
Mm.
everything that I am, or, how I live it, till started seeing that, okay, people get knowledge and then they want to put it out there to in a different fashion. In a different fashion, it's not about one versus the other. It's truly that I see that when I talk to somebody, I am aligned with my purpose of saying I want to make this better for you. And
Mhm.
like you said, that ripple effect, I really hope that continues in different countries and different places. And I do have many friends who say, "Oh gosh, Tina, it's so hard because now even we look at mouth breathers everywhere, and this is just annoying." And and I'm like, yeah, it's all right. Like if you think of me and the first thing you think of is how are you breathing, I am very happy. I've done my job here. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Good. I think I love that. The intention that you put into what you present. And it's so important because these things, whatever platforms we're on and the social media part is because you want to see many people, this is where they're going for their education. And I think that's amazing. We should just be thankful. There's all the things that we need to be careful of that we're not living more in that world, the digital world, than the real world. But hey, it's all one. We're all one. And so, you're putting that much intention towards what you do and staying authentic to your core values is powerful because I feel that comes through. And that is why more and more people are continually attracted to what you're putting out there. And so I would love to ask you the second part of my question, which is, um, the personal legend. I like the symbolism of maps and making maps and things like that. And so, if you think of the legend as this place on a map, which is like the key, where you see symbols on there that tell you like how far you've gone on the map. If you imagine taking out an old school map, or you see, oh, even in Santa Barbara, we were at the park playground, and there's a little map that shows you where the gazebo is, and that's where the ducks gather. There's a key on the bottom right that tells you a little bit more about the area. So what are the keys in your life on your map that keep you attuned to your personal legend? These could be practices, as we've said, like meditation or journaling, or even just like what continues to keep you in that place where you are living in your legend, staying aligned with your purpose.
one of the things is going to be continuous learning.
Hmm.
That is a big part of what keeps me aligned with my purpose, because if I can't say that my purpose is to communicate outdated information, so
Right.
staying on that and simplifying that is definitely one. And other aspect is going to be balance many years ago, if you do that exercise of what would you like someone to say at your eulogy, uh,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
balance came up as a theme for me. That, I mean, of course, that relates into she does it all, right?
Yeah.
But to kind of not forget my core choices that I have already chosen. I've chosen to be married. I've chosen to be a mom of two. I've chosen to be a good daughter to my parents and my in-laws who really love
Mhm.
me like their own daughter. So these are roles that I should not give up in the pursuit of my purpose, and they kind of have to just align and find space in my life for that, no matter how hard. Um, Another aspect is that to not get drawn into the monetary gains in a very very fast paced commercial expensive city. So it's a daily tug of war, and my personal legend and that map that you describe around what's where continues to say stay true to spreading information versus
Mhm.
gatekeeping for your benefit around it. And it's not easy, and it's often misused. So it's often a learning purpose too, learning journey too. And I,
Mhm.
I had a coach who once very rightly told me that it's outside of your purpose you have goals that help
Mhm.
that you're achieving, and these are pathways to it. So you must not look down negatively on, say, some gatekeeping, or negatively on monetizing what you need to do, because if you don't, you wouldn't be able to live your purpose.
Mhm.
So my map also involves learning how to live some of those aspects, to say, hey, if I didn't actually make any of money last month, how would I go on that next learning course? Or if it's things of that nature are what defines life for me on my map. I hope that
Mhm.
answered the question.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, I mean, I know directly, hearing, what keeps you, kind of up to date with your communication. It's like that's a practical thing. But yeah, these all are so good, and I think it's really wise to take some take some time. Anybody, you're listening, watching, you'll find that there's some keys there for whatever kind of walk of life that you're journeying through. So, well, yeah, I feel like we're gonna have more discussions, and I'm excited to unpack more with you. So I'd love to, connect again and find a way to share more of what you have to offer, and more conversations. I think would be so fun. So, but yeah, thank you for sharing. I really want, you'll everybody will have the show notes and they'll have the links, but how can people, the Airway Dentist Dubai, how can people find you? And are there any things that you especially want to, say that, how can people learn from you or find you in those things before we close out?
I'd still say that despite emails or websites, my Instagram is what's the easiest way to connect with me, and you'll always find me reply to a message to you over there versus any other form of communication. And Neil, thank you so much for having me. This is a very interesting, very different conversation that actually, has made me think more about these things as well. Otherwise, you just kind of go off rattling off your qualifications or your thoughts and beliefs about tonsils and adenoids at all times. So this is this has been really, really lovely. And yes, I would be so happy to connect with anybody who's listening and would love people's thoughts on it.
Yeah, and probably for some of you, you might be like, Neil, why did you not ask her more questions about tonsils or adenoids? Well, first of all, go find Tina on Airway Dentist Dubai. She has a few other podcasts where she does go more in depth on that, but I feel we'll come back to that to get in a little deeper on the mechanics mechanism, because I feel like we could put our minds together to present some info to people in a way that actually involves the feminine masculine polarity that isn't being talked about in our field. So we'll do that. But I want to make sure I honor your time. And yes, let's just say anybody who wants this to get to someone who needs this, you know how to share it, send it, and then please reach out to us. Tell us what you think. I really want to know how this talk hits you. So thank you, Tina. Thank you for all your time. I loved our conversation, and I can't wait for another time as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Neil. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Compromise to Alchemized podcast. Really excited to thank Jessica from Lunalux for the music, this track called Major. I want to thank Toshi, who originally did the design work for my cover art. And then I also want to thank Alyssa from my team for podcast publishing, my whole team, including Kat, for heading up my world. And then also definitely want you all to follow me on YouTube, follow the podcast on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcast. Comment, give us a rating, and also follow me on Instagram at Dr. Neil Bulchandani so you can stay tuned to my latest. Thanks so much, and you have an amazing day. This is Major.